Hello and welcome to the Hoop Circle, and today's special guests are coming all the way from San Diego, California, and it is the fabulous Valentina and Bags of Twisted Orbit. Hello!
Hello!
So lovely to have you on the show. Thank you for coming today.
It's lovely to see you.
It is lovely to see you too. Bags used to live just down the road, but now is all the way over there.
I stole him.
And made these fabulous outfits for you both. You've got to say, you were looking awesome. These are Valentina creations?
Yes. I made them last year in one of my sewing classes.
I found the fabric.
He found the fabric, that's true. And I was very proud of him when he picked it out. I was like, yes!
That's good teamwork right there.
Yeah.
So the two of you have been hooping, Valentina, you've been hooping since about 2007 and Bags since about 2010, is that right?
Yeah,
cool.
About that, yeah.
And how is it that both of you got into hooping?
Can you go first?
I'll go first. I started belly dancing actually when I was 12. And my mom used to take me to wild underground Burning Man parties to perform with her when I was in high school, like a crazy woman. But I got exposed to that culture really young, but I wasn't really interested in hooping until I went to Burning Man myself for the first time when I was 22. So after I'd already been belly dancing for about 10 years, I was actually more drawn to fire dancing, and I didn't quite really, I couldn't distinguish between all the different props or anything like that, but I just knew I wanted to learn how to do it. And then when I went to the DCOM right afterwards, the San Diego DCOM, I picked up a hoop for the first time, and I became addicted immediately and didn't put it down literally the whole day. For like 8 hours I hooped because I was obsessed with trying to figure out how to get it to go up to my chest. It was like the main thing that I needed to learn how to do, like right away. But of course it took me like a month to get it, because that was before there was any tutorials or anything. There really wasn't anything on YouTube. So basically I went home from that and I ordered my first hoop. And I think I had to wait like 3 weeks for it to come in the mail, and it was like the longest wait ever. But yeah, that was when I started, and I just got so obsessed and addicted immediately. Yeah.
Nice. And how about you, Back?
I've been juggling since I was about 12, sort of on and off, and then I got more into juggling when I was about 20. And then I went to a project in Thailand, Spark Circus, and there was an amazing lady there called Choi, and we'd go out and jam, and I'd be juggling in one place, and then she'd be sort of over to one side with hoops, and she'd be playing with hoops, and everyone always came and played hoops with her, and no one came and juggled with me, and it made me really sad. And then we do fire shows together, and I do what I thought was like really quite clever fire club juggling, and people be like, oh yeah, that's quite nice. And then she'd come out and she'd do fire hoop, and she'd just rock it, like she'd just go for it, and the audience were erupting like, oh my god! And yeah, so jealousy basically caused me to learn hula hoop, being jealous of Choi, who's this amazing hooper in San Francisco.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. And were there many hoopers who were around you when you first started hooping that you learned from, or people that you watched? I say there weren't that many online back then, but did you have any kind of hoop parents who kind of taught you how to out?
When I started Hoop Charmer, she was hooping a lot then in San Diego, and she was actually the first person to hand me a hoop at DCOM, so I'll never forget that. And it was a Psy hoop, an LED hoop, so it was like extra special that she let me use her LED hoop, and I'd never hula hooped before. So that was kind of crazy, and she inspired me a lot, especially in the beginning. But there wasn't a lot of people hooping quite yet then. It was still pretty small at that time. Yeah.
And so I was in Thailand where I met Choi, then I came back to Bristol, and of course I met Emma, and I met Gail and Joe, and we all started hanging out and hooping together. So, and then Nick a bit later, and yeah, so they were definitely the people I was playing with my formative hooping years. I should say that's Emma Kenner, Gail O'Brien, and Joe Mondi, and Nick Roy. Yeah.
Nice. And outside of hooping, what were you doing in life before hooping kind of took over?
I had just graduated college, and I had studied art education, so I was trying to get into working in museums and being like kind of like the forefront of like the front-facing type of person to like the people that come into the museums to make the art a little bit more approachable and understandable and kind of like bridge that gap. So that was kind of what I was working on. And I was working at various different museums in San Diego at the time when I started to hoop. And I kept doing that for about a year after I started hooping, but it was very obvious that I needed to like, my path was diverging, like, and it was very clear that I needed to like dedicate my time and energy towards like me making my own art as opposed to like allowing other people to learn about other people's art. So that was, yeah, it took me about a year before I was like, nope, I'm not gonna do these jobs anymore. I'm just gonna like try to live off of hooping, which was really hard in the beginning, but I'm glad I did it.
Nice.
And I was already a performer at that point. I was doing fire shows and just your bog standard like corporate stuff, still walking, all that sort of thing. Oh, I realized I should have said someone else that I was hooping with in my early years was Emily Rice. Yeah, she'd be annoyed if I didn't mention her. A lot of my original like partner hooping stuff came out of working with her. So she was a big influence on me for sure.
Nice. In fact, yeah, she's the reason I started hooping, because I saw her and Hobbit doing their show, and that was the first ever hoopers I saw. So,
wow,
their performance was stunning. The Pantaloonies.
Yeah, they were really
Emily
cool.
And Shotty Hobbit. Yeah, that was a really cool show.
I was like, acro hooping? What the hell is this? This is amazing.
I know, it was so cool. I remember they won a hoopie, like hooping.org had like the awards and they won, and my troupe was like in the same category as them, and they were the only other ones that I was like okay with winning besides me. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, they deserve that. They were awesome.
And also the two of you have both been very influential in my hoop journey, because obviously Bags, you taught me a lot of like partner hoop and double hoop stuff when I was first starting out, because I also came from doing poi for years before hoop. But also when I started doing burlesque hoop 10 years ago, and I would Google YouTube videos, there was only, all the ones I could find at the time were yours, Valentina, and Chi Revolver. So I kind of watched your videos, which was what inspired me to do burlesque hoop.
Ah, that's so cool. I love that. I remember when I first had the idea to do burlesque hooping, and I looked on YouTube and I couldn't find anybody online that was doing it. But I know there was a few other, I'm sure Chi was probably doing it around that time as well, but also I don't know if you know Vivacious Miss Audacious.
No.
She's an American hooper. And then Lolli Hoops, who's also another American hoop burlesque. And we were kind of all doing it at the same time, but we didn't know that we were, you know, so it's pretty cool.
You definitely did a good job with the internet videos, because that's how we discussed it.
I mean, YouTube was like the thing. Now it's Instagram, but like then it was like all YouTube. Oh, whoops, I'm so behind. I'm so behind.
How did the two of you meet?
Oh, geez.
I met from watching her YouTube videos. That's how I first discovered her. And I've been watching her one of her belly dance and hula hooping videos with Cat Colette. You know Cat Colette. Yeah. And I've been showing that to her. And then I found that you put a comment on the Bristol Hoop Massive video.
Yeah, I commented on the Bristol Hoop Massive video because when it came out, it was like my all-time favorite hoop video. I loved it so much. I loved everything about it. I've always it was very clear from the beginning that I was obsessed with Bristol and all the hoopers that were coming from Bristol. So I had commented on that video, and he was also watching one of my videos, and so then we messaged each other through YouTube, and that was before when you could message through YouTube, which I don't think you can really do anymore. But yeah, that was the first time that we interacted, and that was in, I think, 2011.
I actually found those original messages.
Yeah,
I was going to print that out, and I never did.
We looked it up and found the old messages, and it was like something like, I don't remember exactly what we said, but I know at the end of it was like, we should hoop together one day.
Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, bless. And what kind of things would you say you're kind of most passionate about within hooping?
I mean, the partner hooping has been a big deal. The partner juggling, I think, is one of the things that we're very much into.
Yeah, we love juggling hoops together. I think that we've really found our stride with that. There's just something really special about hoop juggling together because we know each other so well. It's just not the same as any other feeling I've ever had with anybody else. I don't know how to explain it.
When we do a performance together and we really nail it, like it's amazing.
Yeah, and even just training together, and we've had some amazing experiences where Bags is so, like, he is so creative and he comes up with so many different patterns and new moves and stuff, and he'll go down this like wormhole of figuring out all these new things that he wants to try with me.
And then I'll just turn up with a notebook.
Yeah, there'll be like a notebook of like pages and pages of all these different patterns and like juggling things and just all the different things that he could think of that we could do together. And then we'll just have like, we've had some really fun days just diving into that and just like really spending lots of time doing all this new material together.
I think the first time I did that was when we were in Nicaragua, when you visited me in Nicaragua, and we've been apart for a couple of months.
Yeah, I think we were apart for like 3 months, and that was right after we got together, so it was really, really sad to be apart.
So I'd spent like the weeks beforehand just writing out like pages and pages of all these moves we were going to do as soon as she turned up.
Yeah. And we did it, and then we made a video. Usually we would like do it so that we could make a video together with it, with all the new stuff. That was usually the goal.
Yeah, nice. And would you have any advice to couples who work together as performers of how you've made it work so well for the past kind of 8 years or so?
It's really difficult to do, isn't it? We've definitely had like ups and downs. There was a video that we made in Hawaii where we're all like, it's this loved up video. It's in Hawaii. The song's like a really sappy song, and it's all about us being like, and we were like shouting at each other. Like between takes, I'd be like, we need to do it again. You're like, no, we're not doing it again.
Like, yeah, he gets a little Nazi-ish with the videos. Like, he makes us do everything like a million quadrillion times so that it's perfect. Like, he's very strict. And I'm just like, I'm tired. I'm over this.
Have a vision, though.
But as far as advice, it's really hard to say because I think we're still in the midst of it. We're still figuring it out as we go along.
Think about what we're doing now. We're working in this front room. We're doing shows and workshops together. We're training in this front room, and we barely go out of the house at all because we're in quarantine.
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy how intense it is.
Outside of like being in quarantine, I think something that helps is just making sure that you have your own thing going on outside of your business and your relationships, that each one of you has your own, whatever it is, hobby or something that just drives you forward, but that you can really just claim only for yourself. That, because otherwise it gets really entangled, and it's just nice to have a little bit of space and separation, which we don't really have a lot of right now. But somehow we're making it through.
But then also we're very grateful to have someone else to be sharing the pandemic with. I think that's the other thing. You can see what it would be like to not have a shared space, be isolating by yourself, and that'd be
hard. Yeah, totally.
No, definitely. And in terms of tricks and hoop stuff that you're kind of excited about at the moment or currently working on, what kind of things are you kind of working towards hoop-wise?
I've been working on some multi-hoop sort of like the more sort of old hoop rollers. Now, one of the videos that still was my favorite, Howard Nichols, and he does all this stuff where I think one of them he's got 11 hoops on his body, and he's sort of doing this with 11 hoops on himself. So I'm nowhere near that, but I'm working on like a 7-hoop one that's sort of somewhere between that and like a Brun finish, where you're sort of standing on one leg, you've got hoops on your leg, and you're juggling, and I want to have like a hoop spinning in my mouth. So that's one of the things I've been getting into. Another thing I've been working on a lot is Mills Mess with 3 hoops, and generally 3-hoop juggling. But I certainly at the start of the pandemic, I went down a crazy rabbit hole in Mills Mess, and I wrote this whole long blog on all different Mills Mess variations. And that was fairly intense, wasn't it?
That was intense, yes. And for me, it's a weird situation because I had knee surgery and hip surgery last year, and my knee is pretty much 100% back to normal. It's like doing really good. My hip is a lot better. It's not fully healed yet. So what I'm working on hooping is really just getting myself back to where I was before, and a lot of that has to do with like one leg balance stuff, because I had the surgery both on the same leg, and it's the same leg that I do all of my one-legged balance tricks for, like my box, or like even just like single leg hooping stuff, wedgies, that kind of thing, where there's a lot of like movement and twerking with the hips and a lot that kind of stuff. So I'm really just almost like I'm working myself back to where I was almost like a year and a half ago.
Which she's been working so hard on. It's crazy, the amount of physio and just the amount of work you can do to get back to where you are. And then she did her first performance again. What was that, about last month?
It was in April. I did my first performance, but it was like a Zoom performance, which in a way was good because I was so nervous about coming back after like 13 months, I think, or no, 15 months of like not performing. To have it be virtual in a way was like a little bit like of a safety net for me. So that was kind of nice. And I did almost everything that I normally do in my act. So it's just like it's more like the box, like the 4-hoop box and that kind of thing but I'm doing a show on Saturday, another show on Saturday, like a virtual show that I think I'm going to be ready to do my 4-hoop box in the space for it. So that will be a good milestone when I can do that again.
Nice. And actually, talking about those videos, that leads nicely into the videos that you picked. I don't know if you've picked one each, or we'll discuss how you chose them as well, because obviously you're the first pair that we've had on the show. So the first video you picked, I'm hoping I'm going to pronounce this right because I'm very bad at pronunciation, but is Nakotah LaRance?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's how it's pronounced, yeah.
LaRance. And it's from the 2016 Herd Museum World Championship Hoop Dance Contest. Can you tell me a little bit about this video and what you like about it? And who picked it?
I like how crazy technical circus it is while he's still doing this like very spiritual dance. And he's got so much energy and speed and slickness, like he's doing these crazy technical tricks, but it's just he's dancing the whole time. There's so much showmanship there. And yeah, I've watched him live a couple of times. That was the 2016 Herb Museum, but I think I went in 2018 and we went this year in 2020, and it's even better live. Like just the energy from him is crazy. But then he's putting in sort of I like the fact that he mixes a whole bunch of stuff together. He's putting like hoop rolling stuff where he's putting them all different parts of his body, and then at one point he like moonwalks backwards while doing hooping, and then he goes into like a 5-foot wings, but he throws them all up in different ways, and then like slots into this 5-foot wings, and then spins straight out of it. Like there's never a moment where he's still and he's sort of about to do something technical and has to pause before it. It's just like bang, bang, bang. Yeah, it's just an incredible performance.
Awesome. And there's actually a couple of questions I wanted to ask you surrounding this, Bags, because there's obviously issues to do with kind of native hoop dance and cultural appropriation and how we incorporate the fusion of different kinds of hooping. How have you gone about getting into doing aspects of this in your hooping, and what are your thoughts on that?
It's a really important discussion to be having. I think it's definitely something we should be talking more and more about. It's also one that I can only give you my opinion as a white person, as opposed to a far more relevant opinion as a native person. So I feel whenever I give my opinion, I should say that first. But I got into it, well, I can't remember exactly when I first started, but I probably saw a Native American video on hooping.org maybe. And then I was searching YouTube for more of it, and I found videos by a guy called First Charger. I think it's on YouTube, it's just 1ST, then Charger. And he had a bunch of tutorials, and so I was based in the UK, so I wasn't necessarily as aware of all the Native American controversies that I should have been. You know, I think my education on that was woefully lacking. And I just found this guy on YouTube teaching, and I was like, this is amazing. This guy's teaching, I'm gonna do it, it's great. And I really like got completely obsessed by it for a bit, as I tend to, and watched all the videos I could and learned all the tricks, and yeah, got really fascinated by it. And then as I started to learn more about it, I started to learn that the worm, you know, wasn't necessarily, I think some of the ways I went about it to start with weren't ideal. I think I made mistakes, and I'm probably still making mistakes now with it, but hopefully I'm continuing to educate myself on the matter and to do better. And I can tell you what I think is important to try and avoid it being cultural appropriation. But again, this is just my opinion. I'm not saying it's right. But for me, the things that I'm trying to do at the moment, I'm trying to credit specific native people when it's come from a specific person, or certainly when it's you know, like the 5-foot wings. I'm trying to say, okay, this move is inspired by native hoop dance, or is a native hoop dance trick. So credit, I think, is very important, and then learning more about it is something that I'm really trying to do. So it's not just like this thing where I'm just like taking without any knowledge of it. So yeah, we've been going to I've gone a couple of times to the National Herb Museum competition, which is just amazing. It's the initial experience where there's like 100 native hoop dancers come out at the start, from like some of them come on like carried on because they're this big, you know, like tiny babies holding like these tiny little hoops. And then you've got the more like elder members of the community, and they just all come on stage and dance around, and it's like the most magical.
Oh yeah, I cried
ever. Like, it's wonderful.
It was so beautiful. I couldn't. Yeah. It was like so much emotion and feeling, like all at the same time, that I couldn't even handle it. It was like, yeah, it was really intense in a beautiful way. It was very moving.
Yeah, absolutely. So trying to get a deeper understanding of the culture that it's coming from, I think, is important. I try and do it in a very non-traditional way, in that I'm never doing the dance moves, wearing the costume, or anything like that. So it's, for me, it's a separate thing. And and when I like teach it, so I really enjoy teaching it to kids. But when I'm teaching it to the kids, I'm trying to always say, look, this comes from native hoop dance. This is amazing. You should go and check out native hoop dance. It's incredible. So hopefully, by that, I'm also like giving something back, like spreading some sort of awareness of it. Is my hope. I don't know how successful I am in that, but that's my goal. And and that was basically the fourth one. Also, to be trying to proactively share native hoop videos, and to be trying to spread knowledge of it. So hopefully, it's not an entirely one-way street. It's definitely very, very much you know, me being the main beneficiary out of the relationship. But I hope there's sort of some going back in the other direction as well.
No, it's very thanks for talking to us about that, because I think it's a very interesting subject, and yeah, as you say, it's something
I think it's very important to discuss it. I think it really, I think it's something that's very easy to not discuss, and we should be having discussions about it, and we should always be checking in like with other people. Are we doing this right? Is this the right way of doing it?
No, definitely. The second video that you've picked, very different. I really love the fact that these 3 videos could not be more different than one another, and you've given us great variation here. And so video number 2, and again, I'm guessing this is a bags one, is Howard Nichols, Timing is Everything. Do you know what year this is from?
Oh, I researched the video at some point because I wanted to actually get a copy, because the one in this video is like, there's a projector of the video and then someone's filming the projector at an angle. But I can't remember what year it is, but I think he was born around 1900, and he was performing around sort of 20s, 30s, 40s was, I think, his peak. So, but he looks a bit older than that. He's maybe 30s or 40s in the video, is he? I think, let's go with 30s. I reckon 1930 would be my guess.
Yeah. Wow. And what is it that you like about this video?
It's just mind-blowing. That the whole thing. Well, one, I like the talking over the top. It's so cheesy and of that era. Like all the cheesy jokes they're making while he's doing it is great. But then the tricks themselves, he's balancing a hoop and juggling 4 hoops at the same time in a wall plane half shower while the hoops go through the one on his head. It's just like, I juggle a bit and I balance a bit, and I can't imagine doing that trick. And then he does all the hoop rolling. He does like the classic hoop rolling with 4 hoops, and it's just so perfect and beautiful. It's all, they've got it filmed in slow motion, so you can just see all the detail of the trick. And then the last trick, where, as I was saying before, he's doing 10 hoops, and he's got 2 on each leg, 3 on each arm, and 1 on his neck, and he's just doing this. And yeah, it's just magical.
Awesome. Let's check it out.
If you're hungry, Howard can always supply a roll. What a sense of humor. I mean, what a sense of balance. Maybe he ought to tackle the national budget. There's nothing dangerous about this type of work, but he's certainly giving a spine-tickling performance. his foot in it, plus everything else he's got. All right, Howard, start your motor. Yes, sir, operating smoothly on all cylinders, and that calls for timing that's perfect. You know, you don't have to be crazy to do this kind of stuff, but it helps. This fellow ought to be useful in the defense program. He takes ordinary hoops and turns them into revolvers.
And the final video that you've picked, again, couldn't be more different from the other two, is Lila Chupa-Hoops with her Roxanne performance. Is this a Valentina choice?
I mean,
Isn't that obvious?
It is a Valentina choice, but I really love the video as well.
Yeah.
It was an epic performance.
It was. Yeah, it was mostly my choice. I think there's a lot of different reasons I chose it. I love her so much, and I think she's my favorite hooper. And well, besides bags, of course.
That was awkward.
Well, to be fair, when we were trying to figure out who to name as our favorite hoopers, I was like, well, Steve Baggs, obviously. But anyway, yeah, so she performs that performance was actually in my production in San Diego, because she was touring. I think she was already going to be in the States or in California, so it just worked out perfectly that I got her to come to San Diego and perform in my show and teach workshops in our space that we used to live in. So that was really cool because I got to be a part of it and see it live. And then when she released the video, it was just so popular and there was such like a big response to it that I just felt like so proud of her. So that, and also I just love the act. I love her style. Obviously I love burlesque and hooping, so I'm just really inspired by her. And I find her to be really creative and super just beautiful and sexy. She's just like all the things, you know, so I had to choose that video.
And the video is great, but live it was so much
Oh
better
my
than
God,
the video.
she like took the house down. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's check out a little bit of that video. Awesome. And if you enjoyed any of those videos, we have the link underneath for each of them so you can watch the whole thing in full. So thank you guys for picking those. That's a really lovely selection of varied hooping. And in terms of hoopers who've inspired you, again, I don't know who's picked which one on this, so I will read them out and then you can let me know what it is you love about their hooping and yeah, who's picked them. So the first one is Lila Chupa-Hoops. You both do a bit of burlesque now, so again, was this a kind of a joint choice who you picked this one, and what is it you like about her hooping?
I very much like her performance, definitely. I think it was mostly you who picked her, but I definitely say I'm a big fan of hers for sure. Yeah.
And the cool thing about her is that we met maybe 8 years ago in Paris when she just started to hoop, and I had a gig in Paris performing at the Belly Fusions Festival. So I was doing like hoop and belly dancing combined, and I was trying to find hoopers in Paris, and I needed some support. Like I needed to borrow hoops so I could teach for the festival. And she just started hooping. She was still working at Notre Dame at full time and then starting to hoop at the same time. So that, I just love that our relationship has really changed and blossomed over the years. I've gone back to Paris many times since then. I think in the beginning I was a big inspiration to her because I was already working full-time as a hooper and doing like hoop burlesque and all that stuff. But like, I feel like it's shifted a lot because now she inspires me so much. I'm always watching her videos and just like at awe and like just I'm flabbergasted by how she comes up with so many new moves. It seems like all the time. She seems so creative, and I just really love that. So it's a cool relationship. I wish we lived closer to each other, but it's nice to be able to admire her from afar. So that's why I chose her.
And were there any hoopers or particular burlesque performance bags who've influenced your boylesque?
I mean, it has to be Valentina. She's the only reason I do the Boylesque is because she forced me to.
Oh, whatever.
She was like, "You're doing this, or I'm kicking you back to the UK." And I'd already got a taste for the weather and the burritos, and I was like, "I'm just going to have to take my clothes off to stay here." So that's how I got into Boylesque. But no, I'd say Valentina was my main inspiration. But also the really warm response from people like Tito and
Bobbie.
Bobbie Burlesque.
Yeah.
Tito Bonito.
Cuba
Missile Crisis and Bobbie Burlesque. They're two that were in LA.
They're both LA-based Boylesque performers. They're amazing. Yeah, and everybody watching this should go check them out. They're so awesome.
Yeah, they're really, really talented. So their performances are very inspiring. We hang out with Tito quite a lot because you're really close with him. Yeah. So I get to hang out with him a lot, and he's hilarious. So yeah, hanging out with them a bit and seeing them perform, and then obviously anything Valentina does.
But for them as well, if I'll get you to send.
I can send you their stuff. And you've seen his plunger routine, right? The plunger video.
Fact, that was on last week's recommended videos, thanks to fantastic plant Melissa.
I have to say, when he came up with it, I've never been so proud.
I think
because he really literally.
Oh, wait, I saw it when I came out to visit you, and I think you just filmed it, and I was just like, "This is mind-blowingly good on so many different levels."
I mean, he came up with everything, literally every aspect. The costume, he made it, and the music, and the choreography, and the ideas. Like literally, I was so proud of him when it happened, and he got to perform it at Burlesque Hall of Fame. And I got to watch him perform it there from the front row. And it was like, yes, it was definitely a moment. One of my favorite ones.
That is quite spectacular. Well done for that.
Thank you very much. It's amazing what doors open to you when you take your kid off.
Yes. The second choice, again, very, very different, is Ben Cirka. And what is it that you like about him, and who picked him?
I'd say it was mostly me, but you also watch his videos as well. Yeah. It's a weird love-hate relationship, because he's one of the few people that I look at hooping and get truly depressed by how good he is. Like it's just I can't comprehend it. It's not one of those people where you look at the trick and you're like, oh, but yeah, even the Howard Nichols stuff, I look at it and I'm like, oh, maybe I could learn that if I really focused on that trick. With the 11, if I really worked at it for a few years, I might be able to start getting it. With Ben Cirka, it's like, no, that's not something I can ever do. And it's just crazy. And he teaches, so a lot of his videos are him teaching his students, so I like seeing that side of it. And then they're doing crazy technical stuff. And yeah, it's just how mind-blowing it is.
I saw him post a video, I think it was yesterday, where they were doing the classic, you roll a hoop and people go through the hoop on the floor. And he had like about 6 different rhythmic gymnasts go through the hoop. I'm like,
a weird sort of roll through it. Yeah, it was really cool.
A number of times I've had a drunk person try that at a music festival, and it's never been achieved.
Or I've had people try like jumping through my hoops while I'm juggling them as well.
Oh,
drunk people.
Nemesis of the hoop. And the final pick, going nicely from the juggling there, is Mckenzey Brooke Simper, who I absolutely love. I had her over here for my festival last year. What is it you love about her hooping, and who picked her?
And that's definitely both of us.
Yeah, we both picked her together, so that's kind of
nice. She's one of the few people where I watch pretty much all her videos. I don't watch anywhere near as many hoop videos as I used to, but if she puts out a video, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll check that out. I'm really into the 3-hoop juggling stuff and the sort of flowy, pretty 3-hoop juggling stuff, and that's very much the style that she does. So it's always nice to see her. She'll often do she just started doing like a pose where she pulls them on her knee. I'm like, oh yeah, I like that. So yeah, she's always got a little interesting bit in each video.
She's my favorite hoop juggler, besides this one.
Yeah. And we've been lucky enough to play with her quite a bit and juggle with her and stuff. So it's nice to see her doing cool stuff.
Yeah, she's so flowy. I just love how she comes up with so many different juggling tricks and flows them really well, like the transitions together so nicely and seamlessly. It's really very pleasing to watch.
Definitely. It's all so clean, so incredibly good.
Yeah.
Gotta love that. So I've got a couple of questions around the fusion of American and English hoopers coming together. So obviously Bags used to live in Bristol, now you're living over there. Are there any things you miss about the UK or the UK hoop scene or anything not being over here anymore?
I missed the peppermint fries chocolate bars. Missed those a lot because they were vegan, so I could eat those. I definitely miss hanging out with all the UK hoops scene. I miss Swoop. Yeah, it's the people that I miss. It's not so much the country, but definitely the people a lot. Yeah, there was so many amazing hoopers in the UK that we had so much fun hanging out with.
And do you think that you've got to grips with American English while you've been living over there?
A little bit, like I
Shake your head.
a little bit, and I've changed my language a little bit so the Americans can understand me, but I still quite often come across people that just can't understand the language or openly mock it when they hear it.
It's so sad. People are so close-minded and like not well-traveled.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to ask you guys a couple of questions to see how well Valentina understands British English and how well Bags understands American English. So,
I love this test. I love this.
We've got it.
I'm obsessed with knowing Britishness.
Awesome. Okay, so we'll start off with Valentina. If it was raining and you were in the UK and you wanted to put on some kind of boots that is designed specifically for not getting your feet wet, what would you ask for?
Wellies.
Yeah, Bags, do you know what you'd ask for in America?
Galoshes?
Yes. Yeah. Well done. Bonus point.
We've been practicing for this.
So wait, does anyone actually say galoshes? Is that people do say galoshes?
Yeah.
People never wear galoshes. So it's like, when do you ever wear Wellington boots in San Diego?
Yeah, but it's not. There's more places in the country besides here, and there are wet places in this country where people wear galoshes. So
bonus point if you know what it is in Australia.
Oh, I should do this. My brother lives in Australia.
It's not wellies, I guess. No.
No.
I not got it.
No.
I don't know.
Gummies or gum boots.
Oh,
I didn't know that one actually.
Yeah. That sounds familiar. The gummy sounds familiar.
Again, I haven't been traveling to wet enough places in Australia.
Yeah.
You're not going there in the winter, surprisingly. Okay, so I'm going to give you some words, and then I'm going to get each of you to try and describe what it is in the other person's language. Okay?
Okay.
So the first one is bonnet. Bags. What would an American call a bonnet?
But the car, the front bit of the car? Yeah. Okay.
I try not to give it away.
What would Bags be saying if he was talking about a bonnet?
A hat?
Oh, we're good at this.
Right. Okay. Okay. Flannel.
Oh, I know this. Am I supposed to tell you what the American version is?
No, you're not. You are the American. So you're not going to say the American version because hopefully you know that.
But I still have to know what the British version means.
I know. I'm actually confused by which ones. I know the two different ones, but I'm trying to think. No, I think I do know what the American one is. Should I go with the American one?
Yeah. So what do you think an American would be saying if they said flannel?
They mean the clothing pan, don't they? Of the Americans. Yeah.
And it's like a thing you put over. And for British, it's a towel, like a hand towel.
Close, yeah, it's a face towel.
Or like a face wash towel. Yeah. Little one. Just a little one.
Honestly, though, a lot of my words, someone will ask me, "Oh, what's the English?" And I'm like, I don't know. I've got so confused by living here for how long is it now? 5 years. Yeah. I'm so confused, and people will say, "What's the British spelling or the British pronunciation?" I've got no idea. It's lost. It's somewhere in there. It's all jumbled together.
But you're not going to ever lose your accent.
No, I have to keep the accent, else she says she'll ditch me.
Or else it's over.
So, yeah.
Have you started to develop any kind of American accent on any words? From living in America, I found I started saying D's instead of T's better for quite a while.
I've not noticed it like specific to letters. I mean, I always used to say aluminum, even when I lived in the UK, because it's just a better word. Aluminum. It's a lot more exciting. So there's
I think aluminium is more exciting.
Well, fine. There's definitely words that I've adopted into my vocabulary, but I wouldn't necessarily be able to say what they are. But I hope there's no letters I've started pronouncing differently.
I hope
maybe there are. I don't know.
Or else that's the beginning of the end.
And that's the thing about English: you don't really pronounce any of the letters. You kind of miss all of them. Yeah. So I'm just trying to stick with that, pronounce as fewer letters as possible, and everything will be fine.
And you can keep your marriage.
Yeah.
Love it. And And in terms of the last thing that you've given me choice-wise is the songs that you've picked. Again, we've got a really nice variety. The first one, and I'd only heard one of these before actually. So the first one was The Deep by Clipping, and again, there's going to be links to each of these underneath. This is a song you like hooping to, and how would you describe it?
And this is where we diverge slightly when it comes to music, I think. We agree on most things, but the music was sort of off in slightly different directions.
I just discovered it recently, and it's like my favorite new song. I can't stop playing it. And I discovered it listening to a podcast called This American Life, where they talked about this concept, Afrofuturism. And it was kind of supposed to be a spin on the Black Lives Matter movement, but more thinking of it in a positive, hopeful way, because everything about it is so just like destitute and like desperate. It was a little bit nice just to have one bit of information coming into me that was trying to think about Black lives in a hopeful way. And so the Afrofuturism movement is, you can think of it in a couple of different ways, but it's got a lot to do with the fantasy world and like comic books and thinking about what the future of Black lives are. And so I find that really interesting because I love like sci-fi and everything like that. So they have like this whole like new comic book sci-fi Afrofuturism movement happening right now. So that's one way to think about it. Another way to think about it is to think about right now, Black lives are really the future of what they used to be, and that, you know, slaves couldn't even imagine to have the type of life that they have now. So there is hope. There has been like a lot of change. Obviously we have a long way to go to make it much better. But that song that comes out of the Afrofuturism movement. And it's actually, sorry, I'm talking about this so much, but I really love it. But it's based off of, in the slave ships, they used to unfortunately throw pregnant women overboard. So this band, The Clipping, was thinking about what would happen to them, like the pregnant women and the babies, and they kind of came up with this fantasy world that the babies survived and they turned into like half fish, half human, like mermaids. And it's just really talking about their experience, the deep, like under the water. And I really just love the way the song talks about that story in this fantasy kind of a way, but it also talks about the harsh reality of the fact that the pregnant women were being thrown overboard. So that's my new favorite song right now.
Link underneath to that, you should check it out. It's a really good song. I'd never heard it before, and I listened to it and I was like, wow, that was deeply moving. The second one, again, we've gone for a very, very different vibe. We're going with Mask, Gloves, Soap, Scrubs, Todrick Hall. And why did you pick this song?
It's because he's amazing. Like, everything about the video is fantastic. He took something really unpleasant that was happening to the world, and he put a positive spin on it and made light of it and did it in a really like joyous, like fun way. Which I think I needed to watch it when it came out. And I really like the original. I think the original song, I can't even remember precisely the name of it.
Oh, the original's really good too.
Nails, Gloves. So anyway, the original that it comes from, the song's amazing, the video's amazing, all the choreography on it, then with the different colored gloves and doing these amazing dance moves. I love the original. And then you can take the original, which is genius in and of itself, and do something completely new with it, which is also fantastic. So yeah, I like that.
Love it. And then the final choice, again, couldn't really go further from the first two. One Good Thing, Cinematic Orchestra. So who picked this one?
I chose that one. And that one, it's also another good one for hope, because it reminds you there's just, as long as there's just one good thing, then you can keep moving forward. And all you really need to do, whether it's in your day or your life, just find that one good thing to help you keep going forward. And I just really resonate with that. And I love the song because it's just so flowy. Like, I just want to spin the whole time while I'm listening to it, like do sustain spinning the whole time. And I just love the emotionalness of it. And I love Cinematic Orchestra. They're my favorite. So
definitely. No, great selection there.
We definitely don't agree on music quite often, actually. So there's that.
And in terms of hoop goals, do you have anything on your kind of hoop bucket list that you want to achieve within your lifetime that you haven't yet achieved?
Bucket list.
Well, I know for us, I want, like, we can juggle 8 hoops, but it's not like solid yet. So I would love for
We
us
had to take a long break
yeah.
over the last couple of years.
Yeah, our training definitely took a step back because I was like recovering. But
it'd be nice to get that.
Yeah, that for me is like I want to be able to have the 8 hoop juggle like solid, because we have the 7, but the 8 would be really nice. I know I'd love to get my 5 hoops split. I can do a 4 hoop, but I just, there's like a block with the 5, so that would be nice to get one day. What else?
I'm really working, not so much the last couple of weeks, but certainly back at the start of the pandemic, I was really focused on trying to get my 3 hoop stuff, finding the bridge between juggling them and going into the more manipulationary thing, really sort of a very smooth bridge between the two. So I guess I'm always trying to get the fluidity of my 3 hoops and meshing the juggling and the spinning as much as possible. That's definitely a goal. And I guess I kind of like at some point to flash 7 hoops, but I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know whether I'm gonna. It's a lot of training. I know I could do it if I train for it. It's just a lot of work, and my shoulders are a bit achy these days because I'm an old man. So it probably won't happen. But if I was going to say a bucket list trick, probably 7 hoops.
Nice.
Yeah.
Which is really intense.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And you need to have very high ceilings for that.
Yeah, I probably couldn't do it in the hair. We've got like 7, 8 feet. That'd be a pretty tight pattern.
And would you have any tips, because you are both obviously amazing performers, you've been doing it a long time, any tips for people who are just starting out as performers, other than, you know, once the pandemic's over and people can go back to having a performance life, of things that have been really useful to you?
Well, I don't know. Will everything go back to how it was beforehand? I don't know. That's a big discussion at the moment.
Yeah.
Let's presume that it will go back for the sake of this discussion, but I don't know whether that's a given.
Yeah.
I'd say publicity material. I mean, we've got an entertainment company, so I'm more thinking about the marketing, and that was certainly something that I know I didn't do a very good job of when I started out. You just need like maybe 6 good photos of yourself doing different things. I mean, if it's an act, you only need 3 good photos. But yeah, like half a dozen good photos of yourself, some really good quality footage, good costume. Yeah, all the things that I didn't do a good job of when I was starting out. I can remember some of the costumes I started with were like made by a mate's mum or something, and you could see like bits like we stitched like bits of lining on it, and it was all like rough edges. And yeah. You probably didn't have that.
I mean, I had questionable costuming. Probably in a different way. A lot more, just lots of rainbows, very raver. I would say I wouldn't be afraid to do gigs for free or really cheap when you first start. I have a lot of people ask me about that a lot.
And I think there's a backlash that's been happening over the last few years, maybe a bit longer, where people are like, oh, you should never work for free. And it's almost always people who have worked for free to get to that position.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you have to go through that stage. Yeah. You're going to do the odd free gig.
Right.
And we still do free gigs. You know, it's not like, you know, if you want to do something, you believe in something, perform for free. Why the heck not?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. But like he said, I think there's a lot of pressure from professional performers on newer performers to not do that, because it's not good for the professionals.
Yeah.
But if I think back about when I first started performing, all I wanted to do was to get on a stage, and I didn't really care how it happened. I didn't care if I got paid, how much I got paid. I mean, I just had a way like lower standards as far as like, you know, I would drive far away to go perform, and whereas now I'm like way pickier about it because I can be. But I think just get yourself out there, like do festivals and fairs that are like free or like for families, or do your friends like backyard party. Just the more experience that you can get, the better and easier it's all going to go, and the faster you'll get to gain that knowledge and experience and then become professional. So just don't be afraid to just put yourself out there.
And I'd also say, but there will come a time where you do need to start charging lots of money. And then it's really important to know what the industry rates are, to find out the other people who are performing, how much they're charging, and to know what you're worth. And then you can decide how much you want to charge. If you know the fact that some people are charging this amount and you still charge, and you still choose to charge a lower amount, then that's up to you. But you should definitely know what the possibilities are. And some of the major leaps in my career when I've gone up a notch have just been me putting my prices up and then feeling guilty if I did a bad show. So I had to start working harder to justify the price. So yeah.
No, that's a very good thing. Like how much you value yourself is going to affect how other people value, and that's a kind of a loop, isn't it?
Yeah, but in the beginning, I mean, you really can't. You can't ask for a lot in the beginning when you're just starting out, and then after you've gained that experience and knowledge, then you really should be paying attention to how much other people are charging in where you live.
No, definitely. And final
I
question.
can think of. Oh, sorry. Can I add one tiny bit to that? I can think some of my favorite performances back in the day were like fire shows at festivals where we just performed for tickets. And a lot of people are so down on the idea of performing for a ticket. I've got so many good memories of doing that. So I don't see how that's wrong. If I traded something, it was worth a lot to me. If I think of the value of that festival and the value of those memories, you know, I couldn't put a price on that. So that was totally worth it.
No, definitely. I agree. I mean, that's why I got into performing originally, was because I desperately wanted to go to more music festivals and couldn't afford to do it. So yeah, I can definitely appreciate where you're coming from with that. And so final question, is there anyone who you would love to see interviewed on future episodes of the Hoop Circle, either because you don't know about their hoop story or because you think they'd be a fabulous guest?
I think, I don't know whether the exact same format would work, but someone like Dallas Arcand, who's a very prominent native hooper. He's, I think he's First Nations, I think he's Canadian. I think he's in Canada. So someone like that, because he's like really big on the native scene. Oh, someone like Nakotah, LaRance. Yeah, I don't know whether it's possible to. I don't know whether they'd be interested in doing that, but that would be an incredibly different perspective.
Yeah.
So,
Or what is our favorite male hooper who lives in Vegas, and we went and saw him?
Oh, Matt Plendor would be
Matt
incredible.
Plendor.
Yeah.
I love the idea of like getting like historical figures.
Yeah.
And there's also that woman that claims to like have been the first hula hooper from Australia, but she lives in San Diego.
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about?
No, specifically.
Oh, there was like this whole, we talked about it.
Oh,
there was
the
like
lady.
controversy. She said that she was like the first hula hooper, or she said she was like the one that brought hula hooping from Australia or something.
Yeah, it was the lady that claimed to have introduced the hula hoop to Whammo.
Oh.
And she lives in San Diego. I don't know. I just feel like
she lives in San Diego.
She lives in San Diego.
LA.
Oh no, I thought she lived in San Diego, but I don't know. Anyway,
yeah,
that seems like there's a lot to talk about there that could be really interesting.
Did you see the little documentary about her?
No, I don't know.
Do you know what that's called?
There's a little documentary. It's called something like, I can send you a link.
Send me the link, we'll put it underneath.
But the information in there, I'm not going to say it's not true, because I don't know, I wasn't there. It doesn't fit in with the narrative that we already have that links it to another company in Australia that was already making hula hoops. Supposedly, I wasn't there, I don't know. But there was Toll Toys in Australia. So the main narrative that we have before that documentary came out was that it was someone to do with that company, possibly. I think it was either the son or some other relative came over to a toy fair in the US, and they met the Whammo people, and they were like, oh, you should make these hoops, because they've been making plastic hoops, but they couldn't really quite keep up production. So they're like, oh, you should start making these. And then Whammo, because you couldn't really like give them any money because it was just like a circle, the story goes that Whammo donated some money to a hospital in Australia, or like a kids' hospital, as sort of payment for this idea. I don't know if that's true, but that's a story widely known. And then this documentary came out, didn't address the original story, and just gave her version of events. So
that is all very interesting. Yeah,
it is very interesting stuff. I'd love to know. I'd love to see that. She talks about having some documents about a legal case where Whammo paid her money. So if there's a legal case and you don't get to fully see the documents, if she has those documents, you can see them, then I'll fully believe her. But I would like to see those documents.
I get her on the show bags. I'll be like, we want to see those documents.
Where are the receipts?
Well, thank you both so much for being guests on the show today. It's been such an absolute pleasure to have you, and get to chat to you as well, because I miss you both. And
thank you so much.
And we look forward to seeing
so good to see you.
All the fabulous things that you do in the future. So take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Kay.
Thank you, Kay. Bye.
Bye.